have to pull a little switch.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Hi, and welcome to the first ever town hall for the USUSA Executive Leadership Board. My name is Alexis Needleman, and this is Max Roberts, and we are the co-chairs for the Elections Committee.
So today's town hall is pretty cool because USUSA is now a fully system-wide organization representing all USU students around the state. And so the candidates that you will hear from tonight are seeking to represent all USU students at each of the 30 campuses and centers that we have in the USU system. So tonight we are joined by students both here in Logan and those who are watching statewide via YouTube. And we just want to thank everyone for participating tonight.
And then just to introduce our moderators here, we have Gracie Jo Averett and Tyson Holman. Go ahead and get started.
Tonight's town hall will be divided into 3 parts, one section for each of the 3 races for the Executive Leadership Board. For each section, the candidates will have 3 minutes each to present their campaign platform. They will then be presented a series of questions from the moderators. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer the question.
After we have asked our questions, we will turn the time over to the audience to ask their questions. When it is time, we will invite members of the audience who wish to ask a question to form a line in front of the microphone. We ask that you keep your questions civil and productive for tonight's discussion. Each candidate will have 30 seconds to answer the questions from the audience.
The candidates have also been asked to keep their responses within the allotted time. The moderators will cut off candidates at the end of their time. Lastly, tonight's town hall is not a debate, but a setting for candidates to explain their platforms and goals for office. We ask both the candidates and the audience to help us promote an environment of civility as we discuss the issues that are important to students.
With that, we thank you all for joining us tonight. Let's get started.
All right, if we could welcome the student advocate candidate on stage.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Okay, cool. Well, hi. Thanks, everybody, for coming out tonight. I'm Ethan. I'm running for Student Advocate Vice President. Just want to take this time to talk a little bit about my platform. So I served as Student Advocate Vice President last year. Some of you will be familiar with that. And yeah, I apologize if I'm a little out of breath. Super Bowl was yesterday, and I ate a metric ton of garbage. So you can probably understand my shortness of breath. But essentially the reason I wanted to run again, I felt like we did a lot of great things this year with the Government Relations Council and in my role as student advocate, but I felt there's a lot of areas where we could expand on some of our successes. For instance, some of the things we talked about doing last year that we felt were really successful was promoting more awareness of student issues on campus. So we did on events like where we partnered with the Statesman to do the Meet the Candidates for the Logan City Council election. That was an event aimed at trying to help students become more aware of the opportunities they have to get involved and give their voice in the community. It was reasonably well attended, and we felt like that was a great way to help students engage. We also had an event, it was an event focused on why America is so polarized, and so we had a bunch of different speakers from across the political spectrum come and talk about why America's so divided and how we can move forward. So those are some of the things we'd like to continue to do going forward. Events focused more on helping students engage with the various things going on. One of the things that I feel really strongly about is I think a student can't be fully active, their voice can't be fully or as powerful as it should be until they are first aware of the issues. So we've actually worked to help students have more awareness of some of the issues. The Government Relations Council has been going to city council meetings all year in an effort to try and help the student populace's awareness of those issues. Oh man, 3 minutes really goes by, huh? So I'll talk about some of my other initiatives really quick. I apologize. But some of the things we want to do is help, or some of the things I would like to do is help officers be more aware of the needs of students on campus. I think one of the most difficult aspects of my job this year was trying to get student feedback. There was a lot of, I had some understanding going into office that some of the tools we have already would be more effective, things like My Voice and helping us understand student needs. What I found is that students really don't like talking about what's wrong with them. Even when you ask them point blank, what's wrong, they'll tell you like, oh, everything's pretty good. But we want to do more events. Events like this town hall, and then also working with existing tools like My Voice, more effectively promote them so that we can find out what's really going on with students. I think that's pretty close to my time, but thank you.
Okay. So you are seeking a second term as the Student Advocate Vice President. What are some initiatives you would like to carry into the next term, and in what areas would you like to improve?
Thank you. Yeah, so I talked a little bit about it just barely, but really trying to work to be more proactive about getting student voice. So, like I said, working with things like town hall, marketing My Voice more effectively. Events that have been historically well attended in the past, things like Gripe Night, marketing those better as well. Some other events we've been working a lot more closely with the state legislature this year, as opposed to previous years. We've been working on initiatives related to increased funding for student mental health. So, for instance, I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but Savvy lost funding for a therapist that they've had since 2014, I think. In addition, I think we're all aware of the fact that the CAPS office, which is kind of the first response for students that need access to therapy and counseling, are just kind of swamped all the time, right? We have a lot of demand, which, it's great we have the resources, but it's better when those resources work more effectively. So we've started talking to legislators this year. We haven't made as much headway as we'd like, and we'd like to continue working on that next year. How am I doing on time? I have 3 minutes?
You have 30 seconds.
I have 30 seconds? Okay, perfect. I'm glad. Some of the things we do, I want to focus more on helping the USU become a community that really feels unified. And so I feel like there's all these really cool different facets of campus, right? You've got the Inclusion Center over here, and you've got all these different clubs and organizations, and you've got the campus with everything what's going on with every single college. And there's just really not as much communication between the different parts as there could be, right? Like, I have a really hard time figuring out about what's going on in the arts college. Who here has heard that we have like plays that go on? Probably some of you, not me. I would love to know though. So there's things like that I would love to work more on so that we can become a community by supporting one another.
Some students do not always feel like their concerns are heard by USUSA officers. How do you plan to hold officers accountable when concerns are raised, and how will you personally respond to student needs?
It's a really good question. So I think that the areas we can improve on is being more proactive. I know I keep harping on that point, but things like in this year in my capacity, I found out things like, for instance, there's no overflow parking when students for students with stadium passes, when there's games, they're just straight up aren't parking passes. There's just nowhere to park. And these are things that the students won't tell you about until it gets to the breaking point. So I think proactivity is important there. I think also distributing information to students is super important. Students can't really know what's happening with officers until it's in an easily digestible format. So, no student's going to go through and read the executive council minutes, right? I mean, Darcy Williams from the Statesman does. That's great. Nobody else does, to my knowledge. So we can work. One thing I've started doing this semester, I'd like to continue doing, or I haven't started, but we have plans to start. It's called Advocate on the Air. We're doing a radio show once a week that talks just about what is going on with USUSA. It'll be recorded and then distributed later. And that's one way out of many, we hope, that students will be able to get more access to what officers are doing. And there you can kind of see the disparity between what students want, what we're doing, and improve from there. So, yeah.
Perfect. So we will now invite members of the audience who wish to ask a question to form a line in front of the microphone. As a reminder, we ask that you keep your questions civil and productive for tonight's discussion.
Hello, Ethan.
Hi, Eddie.
Hi. So I was wondering, what are your plans to address issues regarding sexual assault on campus, especially with regards to sort of administrators brushing things under the rug or perpetrators just going free?
It's a really good question, Eddie. So I think that comes down to some of the things that we've thought about, because we are thinking about this bill, right? We're writing a bill, or trying to write a bill or an initiative that'll pass in the Utah House. And so some of the things we've thought about are preventative. We'd really like to encourage better education and training on things like healthy relationships way further down the road in the Utah education system, things like K through 12, so that by the time you get to college, it's not the first time you're hearing about what an abusive relationship looks like or how to stay safe at a party, things like that, things that we hope, kind of nip the problem in the bud in the long term. Some of the other things we'd like to do to help promote awareness, we started to gather stories from survivors, things that we think will help as we make a case to the administration as well to legislators, things that we think will, I think the exact nature of the problem is kind of hard to grasp. It's pretty intricate in the different problems between the way that survivors' cases are handled and advocated for. And I think there's a lot of miscommunication in what exactly resources are available to them as they try and, get justice for things that have happened to them. So I think first getting a better understanding of the issue and then working towards solutions for that. I think getting more resources for people that have been affected is a really important way to do that. So I hope that starts to answer your question. Thank you.
Ethan, hey,
Hey, Eric.
I love you so much. I'm so excited you're running for this position again. One thing that I just kind of wanted to get, your ideas. I don't know if you started formulating ideas about this, but if not, maybe some discussion. But now it's being one of the positions that, all the statewide campuses are voting for and we're taking in with this new agreement. I want to know, are there any ideas you have about, getting some student voices from, some of these statewide campuses that might have a little bit less advocacy for them because they're so far away from the main campus?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked, actually, Eric. So that's been one of our problems. Like I said, we have an issue identifying student feedback. So one of the ideas I had was a meeting, maybe twice a semester with statewide officers from the different campuses to talk about what specific issues they're facing. We think that that'll help our advocacy efforts ultimately be more effective. More data, more voices is better for when we have to advocate to the administration and to the state, right? And also, there's things that from here, as in Logan, I'm just not gonna understand what's going on in Blanding. I would love to, but without communicating more, it's just never gonna happen. So those are some of the steps I'd like to take. I initially thought about maybe appointing some sort of advocate at each campus. That doesn't really seem feasible now that I think about it, but yeah, increased communication and then working towards those issues. So, thank you, Eric. Super.
All right. If that's all the audience questions,
I think
then
maybe there was one person on the back, but sorry, it just
perfect.
takes a while to walk around, so.
Hi, I'm a graduate student, and graduate students are a unique population because between classes, research, teaching, and other academic inquiries, a lot of graduate students are not involved on campus. So not involved so that they are unaware that they have a graduate student senator, that they're unaware that there's a newsletter that goes out. Do you have any ideas of how to get these busy students more involved and how to get their voice as well?
Yeah. I think that's actually pretty tricky. So I lived with 2 international students last year. Both were graduate students. And I think that kind of some of the things you mentioned, right, like research, class commitments, different things like that. Their schedules are so full. Like, I would invite my roommates all the time to go to events, and they just didn't have time. So I think making things as easy and efficient as possible, right? So they can just, like, in between something really quick, grab a snack and find out about, how they can make their voice heard in their program. For instance, if, like, their, graduate studies mentor is not communicating with them as much as they need to. I think, honestly, things like, one thing I had an idea for is kind of event near when applications go out for things like graduate studies, graduate council, or things like, government relations council, all the different USUSA committees, kind of a big promotional event to make people aware of the programs that exist, and then working to continue to promote that throughout the year. I think there's just room for growth there, and I think there's also rooms to make our programs more tailored to the people that are the individuals that they're being marketed towards. So I hope that answers your question a little. Thank you.
All right. If that is all the audience questions, then thank you to the student advocate vice president candidate. You may now exit the stage.
Super. Thanks for your time, everybody.
We would now like to welcome the USUSA Executive Vice President candidates on stage.
All right, so the USUSA Executive Vice President candidates are Abe Rodriguez and Sam Shaw. You will each have 3 minutes to present your campaign platform. So we will start with Abe, and then we'll move to Sam.
Hello, my name is Abraham Rodriguez, aka Abe, and I'm a proud Aggie in my junior year here at Utah State, studying marketing and journalism. I came to Utah State in 2019 as a first-gen college student, and I fell in love. I love the beautiful campus, love the people, love all the wonderful clubs and organizations we have around campus. So just so you guys know what to expect from me as a candidate, and I want to earn your guys' vote, I really do. I have goals that center around the importance of collaboration, because I believe that we can only go so far alone, but together we can accomplish so much more with a plan. And I believe that there's no such thing as over-promoting. You're always going to have people who are going to miss out. But the real question lies on what can we do to reach out to those who may feel like outliers, who may feel like they don't really know what's going on in the university, who may not always be walking in TSC or just roaming around campus. And that's where I came up with the idea of utilizing and continually improving on what the new My USU Home Portal does, since it's something we all have access to, and it's something we'll be using for years to come. And one of the goals that I want to touch real quick with that is who I will be collaborating with, and that is with the student affairs, as well as being able to work with, like I said, because they work on the My USU Home Portal, and as well as working with the executive director of diversity and organizations, and make sure that we're able to announce when clubs and organizations meet on the My USU Home Portal, so then students that have access to that can know what's going on, give it a try, and get involved. One of the other things that one of the main things ExecVP does is advocate for you guys' student fees, which when I was like talking with everyone else, I'm like, which we all love paying student fees, right? But there's a way to make it a little bit better. And those 2 points I want to really quickly touch on is number one, being able to create a marketing plan that will expand on what the money we pay for goes to, whether it's the athletics or the music department fee, how that affects like the Aggie marching band as an example. And also let you guys know about what facility enhancements are, how they work, why they matter, and how you guys can make those requests to make a difference in that space. Other than that, like I said, a lot of my goals that I touch on, it's about who I'm going to be working with. And I think it's very important that the way we structure things is to have a clear and strategic agenda, for what we want to do and how we want to ensure everyone has specific goals so we can all accomplish them together. Like I said, I would love for you guys to look at my other goals that I have in terms of what I want to do, such as collaborating with SAA and like I said, with student affairs, to be able to add Aggie Network to the My USU Home Portal. So then we can also give those post-grad opportunities for students that even myself, I wasn't even aware of what Aggie Network was. So things of that sort. But without further ado, thank you.
All right, thank you, Abe. Sam, you can go ahead and describe your campaign platform.
Perfect, thank you. My name is Sam Shaw. I use he, him pronouns. I am a sophomore this year in the mechanical engineering program, and just like Abe, I'm running for executive vice president. And my platform really revolves around listening to students' voices. I really, truly do care about every Aggie voice, and I want to hear all of the different perspectives that we have on this campus and our campuses across the state. Like Abe mentioned, Executive VP has the unique opportunity to not only chair the both Logan and statewide student fee board, the Facilities Enhancement Committee, but also be a bridge between the Academic Senate and the now Logan Executive Council and Executive Leadership Board. And that is a really unique opportunity to, again, speak up for Aggie voices. I feel like it could be easy to get a little caught up in the systems and structures of USUSA, attending the meetings, working and writing with legislation, and going to these different committees and involvement events. But staying with the students and keeping the students' perspective in mind is really something that I'm really passionate about. I mean, I came to Utah State in the fall of 2020 when things looked very different from when they look now. And we are no stranger to change, right? Things can change so quickly. The question is whether or not it changes for the better. And I really want to put those emphases on responsibility, inclusion, and accessibility to create change in a forward direction, to make campus more accessible for students, to be a responsible, informed leader, and to keep inclusive principles at the heart of everything I would do throughout my term. A couple specific points I want to expand upon specifically has to do with the student fee board. Right now, there's not a whole lot of effort that goes into really getting student voices and opinions on what exactly, not only what the student fee board does, but what the student fees are, and how that decision process is made. I want to increase the amount of student involvement that goes into that process to ensure that the roughly $458.77 for Aggies at our Logan campus in that 12 to 18 credits, and the $258.07 for Aggies statewide, again in that 12 to 18 credits of money a semester, is going in a direction where the students want it to be. Thank you.
As the chair of both Logan and statewide student fee boards, how do you plan on representing students' interests while evaluating changes to student fees? We're going to start with Sam and then move on to Abe.
You'll also have 90 seconds to answer the question, so we'll pause it about halfway through the 3-minute timer.
And can you repeat the question before he starts?
Yes. As the chair of both Logan and statewide student fee boards, how do you plan on representing students' interests while evaluating changes to the student fee board?
Perfect. Thank you. That's a great question. With this new structure this year, it's a really great opportunity to define what it means to not only be a leader here at Logan, to be a leader statewide. The needs here at Logan and the needs statewide are very different, right? And Aggies across the state have those different needs. Ethan touched on this a little bit during what he said, but meeting with those student leaders across statewide, going to those campuses periodically throughout the semester, and trying to talk with students and hosting times where we can talk to students about student fees, where those fees go, and if they utilize the resources that are funded by those fees, is really kind of a defining moment for how we can ensure that statewide students are seen and they're heard, and their wants and needs are being met. And then with Logan, again, I feel like we have some great kind of steam going in the right direction for on the topic of student fees, but making sure those principles are also at heart and implementing them more strongly here at our Logan campus, just to better get the perspective of Aggies, both here, statewide, and throughout the entire USU system.
Thank you. Abe, you will now have 90 seconds to answer the same question.
I believe that everything starts with having a conversation, getting to know the person, at an individual level and being able to connect with them. I've had the opportunity over the last few months to be able to talk with student leaders, not just from Logan, but across the state, to see what the needs are on their campuses. And because I wanted to make sure that my platform and my goals reflect the needs that we see across the state of Utah, not just in Logan, and be more inclusive about that. And so being able to talk with a lot of these student leaders, especially just to mention a few, just like from Eastern, a lot of them have been concerned about feeling like they are just in the back burner, like they're like with the new constitution and not being able to have a voice. And I told them that, you know what, like, I want to make sure you guys have a voice because, you know, it is difficult when, again, Sam mentioned this earlier about how the challenges of how we're distant, right? But there are ways that we can be able to connect with each other and not make excuses about it. I was able to have conversations with these people via Zoom and get to know, you know, them at an individual level and then from there understand what the needs and wants are. And, you know, in terms of being able to, like I said, collaborate, again, once we're able to understand and what the needs are and everything, then we're able to collaborate and see what is it that we can do to work on improving whatever the problems are. Or is it just 30 seconds?
It was 90 seconds.
Oh, 90 seconds, excuse me. But yeah, essentially be able to get to have a conversation with them, meet with them, and just be open to hearing their input.
All right, thank you, Abe.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next question. The USUSA Executive Vice President also chairs the Academic Senate, serving as an important link between the college senators, the other members of the Executive Leadership Board, and the Logan and statewide executive councils. If elected, how will you effectively advocate for the college senators and their interests to these other student leaders? We'll start with Abe answering first and then Sam answering second. Again, it's 90 seconds, so we'll stop at
just one more time.
The question.
Mm-hmm.
The USUSA Executive Vice President also chairs the Academic Senate, serving as an important link between the college senators, the other members of the Executive Leadership Board, and the Logan and statewide executive councils. If elected, how will you effectively advocate for the college senators and their interests to these other student leaders? And again, you'll have 90 seconds, so it'll stop at the 1:30 mark.
Again, you know, I am someone that considers different points of views. Like I said, I'm always willing to listen to understand. And so for myself, like I said, and I've been telling a lot of people, like if I were to be in office, like from day one, just have the conversation, understand what it is that they want to do. I want to emphasize how important it is to be able to collaborate because, again, if there is certain things that they want to do, that it's in their agenda, whether they want to have certain events that they want to promote and increase turnout, there is a higher likelihood that you're able to increase those turnouts to events or things that they want to support each other with what they have in their agendas with their councils through being able to collaborate and, you know, like I said, other than that, setting the tone, like I said, going back with being able to, like I said, not just have the conversation, understand their needs, and being able to talk with, like I said, with the council members as well. And like, if anything, I think that it'd be nice to be able to talk not just with the center, but go to their meetings, see what they're like. I understand that there's a lot of things the Exec VP does. Like I said, it's something that I'm willing to do to be more of that accessible leader that we need.
All right, thank you, Abe. Sam, same question. Your 90 seconds starts now.
Okay, perfect, thank you. I think, right, Executive Vice President, as this bridge between these different councils and Academic Senate is a really valuable opportunity. The new structure for elections with the Executive Leadership Board being elected 2 weeks before the Academic Senate proposes a really great opportunity for the candidates to really get to know each other without having to focus on this essence of competition. I've already spoken with a number of this candidates for Academic Senate for all of the colleges, not just my own, and built those relationships and worked or talked about working with them, their goals, their platforms. I think in the position utilizing the time that's given in statewide and Logan Executive Council and Executive Leadership Board to speak about what's going on in Academic Senate and the needs of the colleges is also crucial. I believe day 1 is very important to hit the ground running, but day 50 and day 100 is just as important to make sure that, you know, in 2 months, 3 months, 6 months into the position, our student leaders are still advocating for students and colleges and the needs of our students just as hard as they were on day 1, because that is what the students deserve. Strong student leaders who have the responsibility and the work ethic in mind to speak for them throughout their term.
Thank you, Sam. We will now invite members of the audience who wish to ask a question to form a line in front of the microphone. As a reminder, we ask you that you keep your questions civil and productive for tonight's discussion. You each will have 30 seconds to answer the question from the audience.
Let's have one question. We will now, okay, one moment.
All right, hello. So with the changing constitution, how familiar are you with your, I guess, current scope of involvement as opposed to what it has been previously? So just like how familiar are you with all of the changes that have happened from this year and into this upcoming year?
So we'll start with Sam, and then we'll go to Abe for this one.
With the changing in Constitution, there's a lot of moving parts going on. I'm very familiar with the structures and how everything is built out for the different positions, both here in Logan and statewide. There's obviously time going forward to get more involved into that process. I've also gotten really familiar with the specific charter for executive vice president, really understanding what the duties and responsibilities for this role are and the best way that I can fulfill those responsibilities as executive vice president.
Thank you. Abe, same question.
Yeah, so with the changes of the Constitution, again, it is not just something that the executive vice president will just be advocating for students in Logan, but statewide. And so, again, being able to chair in a lot of different meetings, but if anything, being able to work with statewide leaders to know about, like I said, advocating for their student fees, because, you know, student fees, like I said, as Sam was able to mention earlier, the way they range differ from whether you're in Logan or whether you're at Eastern. And
All right, that is all the time that you have.
Okay,
Yes.
awesome.
Okay. So if we'll now take another audience question.
Hey guys, I feel like I've been around the block a little bit in my senior year. I've been involved in USUSA since I started college. Something I've realized, and I'm sure a lot of us have, is that most students don't really know much about USUSA, and it can be hard to get them to care about elections and things like that. So my question for you guys is, and this is not specific to the VP, but it's part of your job, I think. How can you help increase the visibility and legitimacy of USUSA as an organization that does something more than just plan fun events for students and things like that?
All right, thank you. For this question order, we'll start with Abe, and then we'll move to Sam. You have 30 seconds each to answer the question once again.
so for myself, again, it comes down to the why, being able to market the way we're able to let others know why is it that we are involved in all these things, and for others to be able to understand that, you know, that it is something that impacts students at much more than just the entertainment, right? It's more of being able to persist, you know, until you're able to graduate, right? Something that will keep you, that will let you to grow and develop as a person, not just on a personal level, but also professionally. And so it's more of how can we communicate that? And that is in terms of like being able to improve the marketing. Again, I loved what the President's Cabinet was able to do with the
You can finish your
signs,
sentence.
with the signs, so thanks.
Thank you. I understand 30 seconds is limited, but please try to keep your response
Thank
under.
you. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, Sam, same question.
Perfect. That was a great question. I've thought a lot about this. It's one of my campaign platform points. It's something I'm really passionate about. Most students just think that USUSA plans events, but there's also a lot more that happens behind the scenes. And it can be easy for officers to kind of stay up on the third floor and do their jobs and, put a lot of effort into those jobs. But I really want to break out of those stereotypes and status quo to really, again, meet with students, both Logan and statewide, and talk with them about what USUSA does and what they can add to USUSA.
So we will now take one more audience question.
Cool. Hi, my name is Meridian. I'm a senior, and I'm the current NR senator. So I just wanted to ask you guys, because you guys are over academic senate, how are you guys going to empower senators to be able to pursue things past their events? Because senators are very close to their colleges. They understand what the students want, and they have that ability to pass legislation. So how are you going to help them pursue that and make a real change? Thank you.
Okay, we will start with Sam and then move to Abe. Again, it's 30 seconds to answer the question.
Perfect. Thank you. That was a great question, Meridian. As Executive Vice President, I really want to try to have an open door policy, not only for students, but for the Academic Senate as well, and be a resource to the Academic Senate to say, here are your goals, here's your college's needs. How can we get them passed, right? How can we get that legislation not only passed, but to succeed, right? After it has been reviewed and passed and everything like that. I think that, again, the Executive Vice President has a really great opportunity to just work hands-on with the senators from each college.
Thank you. Abe, same question.
Yeah, again, just being that accessible leader, being able to learn what needs are that they have, and being able to see what is it that they want to accomplish. Like, understand that why, understand the vision that they have moving forward, and then from there, just being able to be open to listen, have those conversations, and then be able to guide them with the resources that I'll have as Exec VP to be able to know what to delegate, so then we can be supporting each other more as a team and not just do things individually, but being able to help one another out through the course of our year.
All right, thank you. So that's it for the candidates for Executive Vice President. So you may now exit the stage. Thanks again, gentlemen.
We would now like to welcome our USUSA presidential candidates on stage. Starting on the left, we have Clara Alder, Mikey Henderson, Mikey Henderson, and the Nyota Chowdhury Maganya. Okay. Starting with Clara, you will have 3 minutes to present your campaign platform.
Hello, everyone. My name is Clara Alder. I am pleased to be here. Thank you for being here. I am currently our USUSA Traditions Director. I am our current Miss USU, and I serve on the Utah Board of Higher Education Safety and Equity Commission. I'm excited for this position, and I'm excited to serve as your future student body president because I will advocate. I will advocate for all students, all stories, and all voices. I will do that through leading throughout the state. Utah State is a wonderful place where we have students all over the state. I had the pleasure of visiting all of our statewide campuses and many of our centers, and meeting and becoming friends and allies with many students around the state. We will do that through statewide events and redefining policies when necessary. As well, I am really excited about this opportunity to increase awareness and accessibility to our sexual assault resources. It's really important for us as students to know what these resources are and how they can help us. As well, I'd like to work with the state legislature and our administration to work on our student tuition. Our tuition raises by about 3% every year due to faculty pay increases, and I'd like to put energy behind that. As well, we have our scholarships. One thing I'd really like to bring back is a USUSA scholarship that we had pre-pandemic, and the previous two presidents were not able to bring it back, but this is something that I'm really excited to bring back. As well, this position I'm looking forward to It is the position where we will advocate for students. I think of president many times as kind of the bridge from students to administrators. I have the professionalism, I have the experience within USUSA, I've got the connections with all the administrators and many faculty members, as well as some of the board of trustees as well. I know how to be professional, I know how to advocate, and I'm here for the best interest of students. I've been involved in USUSA for a really long time. I started out volunteering with Blue Crew and helping out at events. I have poured my heart and soul into USUSA, and I think there are a lot of really great things we can do next year. And I'm looking forward to this opportunity, and I'm looking forward to all the things that we can accomplish as a collective, strong student body. And I'm looking forward to using my experiences, my ideas, your ideas, and together we can truly make this a better place.
Thank you, Clara. Next up, we're going to have Neonta.
Hello, everyone. My name is Neonta, and my pronouns are she, her, hers, as well as they, them, theirs. Either is good with me. So, first of all, why am I running for this position? Community organization and serving my community is just super important to me, and I've been doing that for the past 3 years. I am also a PhD student in psychology, so a lot of the work that I'm doing for the university, they are related to the kinds of research that I'm doing. My plan after USU is to work in public policy to improve policies related to mental health and other things like that for the country. So my plan here is to start with my current local community and serve you guys first. A little more about me. I am the current Graduate Studies Senator on the USUSA. I am also the Sexual Violence Prevention Educator from the Office of Equity. And let's see, let me talk about my goals now. So I have a lot of goals. I have about 16 goals. I'll just talk about my top 3 or 4. So to that, I first want to talk about mental health resources because our mental health resources haven't been doing great for a while. We have been in a mental health crisis since 2016 as defined by the state, and our wait times are really not good. I have friends who wanted to see a counselor last semester. They just heard back a few days ago, and we all know that mental health crises don't work like that, unfortunately. And my plan is to hire at least 1 more counselor and 1 more psychiatrist. Currently, we have about 16 counselors and 1 psychiatrist for a student body population of about 20,000. And that's a ratio of 0.003, which is basically 0. So we really need to be doing better. And my plan isn't to go to CAPS for that, because the answer from CAPS is always that they're underfunded. My plan is to lobby colleges, student affairs, and the state, because previously these 3 departments, these 3 units have been able to help us out. And I'm from the College of Education, and my council and I were able to effectively advocate last year for getting another counselor for the College of Education. I will also be working for making housing more affordable, because we're also in a housing crisis right now. And I will also be working towards making student fees and differential tuition more transparent. And by that, I mean having an actual breakdown of all of the information on the website so we know that where our money is going. I will also have a free shuttle that will take us to Salt Lake City every other week. And there are several reasons behind that. It helps with sustainability because, instead of 20 cars going, there will be 1 big bus going, and it helps with the environment. And also, a lot of students don't have the privilege of owning a car, so it captures the needs of those students as well. And if you all have questions about the rest of my platform, feel free to ask. But yeah, I'm really happy to be here, and I thank you guys for being here, and I thank you, both of you, for being here as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Neonta. And last, we'll have Mikey.
Okay, I appreciate that. Look at these 2 great candidates, or all 3 of us, but these 2 are great. My name is Mikey Henderson. I'm an international business and Chinese student, so I'm in the business school as well as humanities. Most of my experience comes in the form of those 2 schools, both with different clubs, research project, things like that. 2 things that I prioritize in the way I go about life is making realistic and actionable plans for myself, and then also the things that I'm involved with, and then also collaboration. I think both of those things are extremely key in order to create a successful team and a successful school or a successful organization, whatever you're a part of. When it comes to collaboration, I'm the first one to say that I don't want to be the one to pretend that I have all the answers. Where I've seen disconnect or things around school is when we as leaders and very capable individuals don't do enough to work together. And that can come in the form of the USUSA Executive Leadership Board with the student council, with the college councils, or the Inclusion Center with USUSA. I think USUSA in general can do a way better job of trying to include and make sure that those voices are heard. When it comes to making realistic and actionable plans, I like to see things that are tangible that we can look at and that we can work towards so that we can make a difference quickly and effectively and productively. So a couple of things that I've been working with, like Neonta mentioned, mental health is a huge issue as usual. The resources currently on campus can be better, and I think all of the organizations that are working towards making that better are doing a fantastic job. I'm not here to act like I have the answers to combat that, but what I do want to do is try to bring as much realistic help as possible. And the first way we'll do that is through Headspace. It's a mental health app that will allow us, or a mental health app that helps individuals to work through breathing exercises, to lower stress, to organize their lives better. That's something that's a $70 yearly subscription for an individual. And there's a student discount already, and we're working with Headspace to get that free for students and be an ambassador college for them. On top of that, I like to see collaboration between colleges. I like to see collaboration between the organizations within USUSA. So what we will do to have that be more of a priority is to try our best as an executive council to meet more regularly with the councils, to meet more regularly with the inclusion centers, to meet more regularly with the diversity chair of the different councils of the schools in an effort to make sure that everybody's voices are heard and that we can reach the average student. Because USUSA, in a lot of ways, people think that it's all the way up here and that the average student is down here. If we try to find the ways to bridge the gap in between that, I think we can be successful. And that's going to be through their leaders and going from one step to the next. So thank you.
Thank you, Mikey.
All right, so for the next question, we'll start with the answer order. So we have Neonta going first, we have Mikey going second, then Clara going third. The question is, USUSA is now a fully system-wide organization representing each of the 30 campuses and centers across the state. As the first USUSA president to be elected by students at all USU campuses, how would you represent all students and build a more cohesive statewide student body? Again, we'll start with Neonta.
Thank you. That's a really important question because, like you said, this is the first time that ELB is statewide. So I want to first talk about what I have been doing this year in terms of that before I, go into answering what I'll be doing this coming year. I believe I'm the only USUSA senator and executive council member who currently has people from statewide campuses on their council. I worked really hard since summer when we as USUSA went to statewide campuses to visit their campus leaders. I made those connections and I reached out to them afterwards, every single campus that we visited, and invited people to be on my council because in the past, we have said a lot that our doors are open, but that's kind of a passive approach, and I don't want to be doing that because I want to actively invite people as well as actively me being the one going to them, right? So I have representatives right now, and in terms of what I'm going to be doing next year, I have on my platform that I will provide statewide shuttles for statewide students to come to our campus events, maybe once or twice a semester, whatever our biggest events are that they have an interest in. So far from my conversations, it sounds like our games are the most popular, so it'll probably be that, as well as for us to go to their events. I am also working on having equitable registration across statewide because, again, from my conversations, it seems like there are a lot of classes that we as Logan students can take that statewide students cannot take. And if anything, COVID has taught us, it's that virtual classes are very possible, and there's no reason that we should be actively leaving out statewide students from being able to access the same classes. And we're all in university for the same reason, right, for education, so we really shouldn't be putting a cap on that. And again, I've already started these conversations, and it's looking good. And
Okay.
I will also,
So sorry, I forgot to mention it was 90 seconds. The timer is broken, and so it will only
Okay, I'll just
last.
quickly
So
wrap up.
sorry.
I will also make sure, just like this year, that I have voices from statewide on my council, and my council being PCAB, which will be the President's Council. Thank you.
Okay, so sorry about that.
You're-
As it was with the Vice President, you'll have 90 seconds to answer these questions going forward. Sorry, we forgot to specify. Okay, so then we'll move on to Mikey. You'll be answering next.
I want to bring up 2 points. Having a more diverse president's cabinet, allowing others from different campuses to be involved in that, and helping us to structure what our organization and our university will look like going forward. And with that, we will make sure that each of these individuals' voices are heard. On top of that, point number 2 is that I think the VP of each of these geographical locations is going to be huge. We need to celebrate them. We want to make sure that they know that their voice is heard. Whether it's the VP of Logan or whether it's the VP of Moab, we want to make sure that we are meeting regularly with these individuals because they're the boots on the ground. They're the ones that are actually seeing the issues at their specific location and campus, and they're the ones that can accurately depict the problems that they're facing. Then we'll sit on a council, we'll meet together and make sure that these individuals know that we are lobbying for them, we're trying to advocate for them and their people at these different campuses. And through that, I think we can have a lot more productive conversations.
Thank you. Okay, so now we'll leave it to Clara to answer. You'll have until the minute 30 mark.
Great, thank you. So this past weekend, I had the opportunity to go to Price down in eastern Utah, and I went to the University of Utah State University Eastern. And it's quite a remarkable experience to go to these different statewide campuses and learn about the different things that students need and the different things that students are passionate about. I think that this education that we have on cross campuses is quite remarkable. I am so glad that this was the question because this is something that is my platform point. It's one of my platform points. It's been something that I've been working on and something that I plan to continue working on. Statewide is so important, including and creating a community of Utah State students across the state is crucial. We are better together, truly. And the way that we will work together as a statewide is one thing I'm really excited and I'm really hoping that we can do is to work together as a unified statewide body. The president will advocate for all of these students across the state. I've learned of some of the things that are important to statewide students. Statewide, as traditions director this year, I've been able to plan some of our large-scale and really big events and project management for that. Events look different across the state. We have traditional, non-traditional students all across the state, from Logan to Moab and from Tooele to Eastern. Students, we all look different. Our stories are all very different. And making statewide policies and as well just creating an inclusive environment of all of our statewide.
So sorry, thank you. Okay.
The order, we're going to start with Mikey Henderson, we'll have Clara Alder go, and then end with Neonta Chowdhury Maganya. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, on our campuses have been important conversations over the past few years. Some past initiatives have included the passage of the US-USA Inclusion Statement, a resolution to improve DEI trainings for faculty and better collaboration with inclusion organizations and the university administration. Other than these events, how would you work to create a more inclusive and equitable environment for our diverse student body?
Thank you. That's a great question and a priority of mine. One thing that I want to focus on is making sure that the individuals within the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Center feel like their voice is heard, feel like they can be the ones to help us create those initiatives and make sure that they are the representatives of these different points. So instead of me sitting up here and trying to make platform points and making initiatives for them, I plan to have something called Conversations with the President. What this is an opportunity for me to sit down with an underrepresented organization leader. What I'll do is ask them questions. I'll see what their platform points are. I'll see what their goals are, where they plan to be in 5 years. And from that point, we're going to do our best to make those come true, bring those things to fruition, and make sure that the voices of these individuals are heard. On top of that, I talked about it in my last little spiel, was about diversity chairs on each of the student councils across colleges. I know that a lot of diversity chairs try their best to create different events within their specific college in order to help promote inclusivity as well as equity. And what we can do is bring those individuals together that bring so much to the table. They can collaborate on ideas and create different campus-wide and university-wide initiatives in order to help us get our points across with that.
Thank you, Mikey. Clara?
Thank you. A few things come to mind. First of all, cross-collaboration between organizations is really important. We all have things that we are passionate about, and I think that supporting each other throughout organizations is crucial. You know, inviting all of the organizations, especially in diversity, equity, and inclusion organizations, having them in programming board, getting them on schedules, getting them into marketing, because some things that are really difficult with this is to get these organizations out and about. And another thing that is a passion and a platform point of mine and something that I plan to work on next year is creating an ally training. This I'll work through the Inclusion Center to amplify an ally training, because education is one of the most important tools that we can give ourselves. I think it's really important for us to be able to become more inclusive to everyone here in this Utah State family. Working through the Inclusion Center and working together as a Utah State family, we can truly be empowering to each other's. I think an empowering leader empowers others, and I think that we can really create a more inclusive family by creating an ally training. And so that's something that I am planning on doing as president.
Thank you, Clara. Neonta?
30 seconds? 90 seconds.
So, as a Bangladeshi American, this point is really important to me. I have been working the last 3 years with the Office of Global Engagement, Inclusion Center, USA, and also the Psychology Department to make sure that we do have a lot of the trainings that our moderators mentioned. I contributed to creating these trainings, and we have a lot of really good allies trainings that exist that I would really love better marketing for, that I worked really hard on. And some of my plans going forward to that is, one, you said aside from the trainings, right? Having co-hosted events with the Inclusion Center, Office of Global Engagement, as well as other clubs, because DEI is a lot more than just the Inclusion Center and Office of Global Engagement. And by co-hosting events, I mean creating new events together. So not just inviting them or just sponsoring their events, our events. As well as having leadership retreats where students from all of these organizations are invited. I was part of the US-USA Leadership Retreat recently, last summer, and it was just the US-USA. And I don't want it to be, you know, an exclusive group like that. So I will make sure that everyone is included. As well, my plan is to have, on a rotation basis, each person from one council go and present to another council on what we are doing, and vice versa. So again, we're not saying our doors are open, you can come to us. We are actively going to you and making sure that we are being inclusive and not saying that we can be inclusive if you come to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Neonta.
All right, so with our next question, the answer order will be Clara, Neonta, and then Mikey. The question is, the US-USA president not only sits on a number of university committees, including the USU Board of Trustees, but also advocates for students to elected state officials. As the primary spokesperson for USU students, what do you believe are USU students' primary concerns right now, and how will you best advocate for these interests? Again, the question order will go Clara, Neonta, then Mikey. You'll have 90 seconds to answer the question.
Thank you. Many of my platform points, I feel passionately that they are in the same interest of students, in that I've done lots of research on what students are interested in. The US-USA president sits on the Board of Trustees. This is the board who I will be working with the university president and as well advocating for students at the university level. I believe that the president is the bridge between students and administrators. And I have the professionalism, I have the experience to truly thrive on this board. One thing that I'm passionate about that I will quickly address is the increasing awareness and accessibility of sexual assault resources. This is something that I believe we need to act on promptly and without any haste. So working with that with the president, there are things that we as students need, and that is things like education and understanding of our resources and As well, I'd love to work with the Utah State Legislature and administrators to work on our tuition with a 3% increase every year. As well, I have many experiences and the relationships with administrators that I think will help me propel in this situation and in this environment to truly advocate for all students.
Could you,
All right.
excuse me, repeat the question, please?
Yes, so I'll repeat the question for you. The USUSA president not only sits on a number of university committees, including the USU Board of Trustees, but also advocates for students to elected state officials. As the primary spokesperson for USU students, what do you believe are USU students' primary concerns right now, and how will you best advocate for these interests? Again, you'll have 90 seconds.
So I believe a lot of the USU student body's primary concerns are things that I am working on in my platform, and the reason behind that is I conducted an extensive, I had a survey that I administered to as many students as I could when I built my platform. So it was actually built by you all and not me. So mental health has been a really big one. And to that I said that I'm working towards hiring more counselors and psychiatrists. Another big one that came up is costs, and to that I am working on lowering cost of housing by working with administration on a need basis to pay a certain percentage of that, and I was recently able to do that with reducing the cost of childcare for graduate students. So a lot of the things on my platform, I have already applied that same concept and system to other initiatives that have been successful, which is why in this position, I want to take that forward and make sure that I'm able to give all of you the services and resources that I've been working on my graduate student council. Let's see, what else came up? Transparency of student fees and differential tuition is something that came up. And I talked a little bit about that I am working on making student fees more transparent. And sexual violence prevention is also something that came up a lot. And like I said, I am currently the peer educator for sexual violence prevention, and I intend on continuing this role because sexual violence prevention is very important to me for a lot of different reasons, and I will make sure that the university has not only the education that we all need, but am I out of time?
Yeah, thank you. Sorry.
And hold people accountable. And with that, I'll end.
Okay, thank you. And so now we'll move the question to Mikey.
Thank you. I think they both brought up great points. I'm going to take one from her and one from her because I think we're all kind of going around thinking about the same issues, one being tuition, another being sexual assault prevention. When it comes to tuition, Clara brought up the great point that tuition is increasing 3% per year. 70% is covered by the state. The current executive board is working on lowering that, lobbying with the state in order to help more of that get covered so that it's not coming out of the pockets of our students. I would do the same. I would advocate for that. I would help make sure that the executive board as well as the state knew exactly where I stood on that we don't want increases in tuition if we don't have to. And so we would fight to make sure that the state could cover as much as possible. In terms of sexual harassment, this is a subject that's close to me because I've worked with a sex trafficking organization for the last 2 years of my life. So I've seen a ton of negative consequences that come with not taking care of this properly. My goals with that are to make sure that our students know where to go. Streamlining the process, I think it's important to make sure that the university helps out as much as possible, but a lot of the times we need to go straight to the law. We need to put these people that are creating this unhealthy environment in jail. They need to go straight to jail, and we need to make sure that each of these individuals at the university feel safe so that we can create a more unifying campus.
Thank you, Mikey. We'll now move on to audience questions. So we will invite the members of the audience who wish to ask a question to form a line in front of the microphone. As a reminder, we remind you to keep your questions civil and productive for tonight's discussion.
With audience questions, you are able to direct them to a specific candidate, but all candidates will be able to answer with 30 seconds for their response. Candidates, again, the timer is broken, so you'll have until the 2-minute 30 mark to answer your question. Just please keep that in mind with your time. And again, if somebody does ask a question directly to another candidate, you are able to respond. We'll just go through the same question order, starting with the singled out candidate first.
Hi. I know Mikey and Clara have both included, as you talked about earlier, sexual harassment issues in your platform and how you're going to combat those. And to this question is for you too, if you would like to answer it. But would you guys be able to elaborate a little more on a specific action plan that you plan on taking if you were to be in office?
To keep a direction going, we'll start with Mikey, move to Clara, and then end with Neonta.
Great. Thank you for that question, Celeste, and I really appreciated your article that you wrote or helped write over the last little while. I think this is an incredibly important point to bring up, a specific action plan. I talked about needing to involve legal resources a lot sooner in the process, because I think a lot of the time we have these outreach programs and telling people to reach out to this individual if you feel like you've become a victim or had a situation where you feel unsafe. And I think we need to involve the legal resources of the university as quickly as possible. So making a streamlined process so that lawyers as well as the police department can get involved as quick as possible.
Thank you. We'll now move to Clara. Again, you'll have 30 seconds.
Being a certified CAPSA advocate, I know that this process is a lot more complicated than it is just, let's just do this. Two specific things that I'd like to do is, first of all, create a student committee where we have the voices of students who are very passionate about what is going to be happening, as well education on resources. What does the process look like? If I'm going to put in a request or a form, what does that process look like, and what will the outcomes be? Those are the two specific things that I plan on doing.
Thank you. All right, and then we'll move to Neonta.
So we are in what's called an interim phase right now. We were investigated by the Department of Justice a few years ago after a few instances of sexual violence, were reported. And this is my job. I am working really hard right now with the Office of Equity to make sure that we are providing all of the educational resources that we possibly can, providing 2-hour-long trainings every single week, and making sure that we get out of that interim phase. We are one out of only 2 or 3 universities in the U.S. who are in that interim phase right now, so that's not good. As well as we need to work on accountability. Always ends right when I talk about accountability.
So sorry. Thank you so much. 30 seconds goes by fast. Okay, so we'll take the next audience question.
Hi, Meridian again. My question specifically for Neonta, but you guys can answer as well if you would like. Neonta, you have some really great plans and some really great actions that you want to do. I'm just a little concerned about how you're going to find the funding. I know you've talked about funding from different colleges, but I don't know. I'm really involved in my college's funding, and we don't have that much money. So how are you going to find funding to do all these things that you want to do? Thank you.
So something I'm really proud about with my platform is that, like you mentioned, Meridian, there are a lot of goals that I have, and what I'm proud about is that none of them encroach on our student fees. None of them mean a rise in our any other funding that comes from finances that come from us. So with, I think you're referring to the lobby in colleges, right? When I talk about hiring more counselors and psychiatrists. And my plan isn't to go to every single college. There are some colleges that have more funding and more cash flow than other colleges. And my plan is to go to those colleges. And I've already been talking to Student Affairs, the Dean of Graduate Studies, and they said that this is a great route because the College of Education did this recently, like I said, and also to the state, lobbying the state as well.
Okay, thank you so much. Mikey or Clara, would you like to answer this question at all?
I'd like to answer this.
Okay, you'll have 30 seconds.
Awesome. As I've sat on the Utah Board of Higher Education Safety and Equity Commission, I know that we need to be realistic about funding. And as I am preparing this run, I think it's really important to be realistic about goals. Focus on the things that the university is doing and how can we amplify that, how can we make it better instead of finding resources from lots of different areas. And one other thing that I wanted to say with that is through all of my platform points, the resources that we have will be working through the state as well, not taking out of student fees.
Can I say something about that also?
Yes, you'll have 30 seconds as well.
Thank you. I'd say a lot of my platform points focus on specific groups of individuals or organizations. And so what I want to do with that is make sure that these organizations are the one taking the lead, because they're the ones at the forefront of the problem and the issues, and they know exactly how to execute and do things like that. So a lot of our initiatives are, I've tried to be as frugal as possible because none of them are taking money directly from the students. Nothing is adding to student fees in that. But any initiatives on top of that that go through CAPS, that go through Savvy, we'll make sure that they head those
Okay.
specific initiatives.
Thank you. We'll now take the next audience question.
So this subject has absolutely been beaten to death, but I think it's important, especially considering that the Department of Justice even felt the need to get involved and produced a damning report of our school, saying that we were unable to, we were unable to handle even 4% of sexual assault reports. So what do each of you plan to do to actually move forward on having sexual assault taken seriously in the school?
As a question order, we'll start with Mikey, we'll move to Neonta, and then we'll go to Clara.
Great. I appreciate you bringing this point up. Like I said when answering Celeste's question, we are trying our best, and my platform is focused on doing our best to include and magnify the legal resources that we already have in play that aren't doing the job that they should be doing. Savvy is an incredible organization, and they're doing a lot of good. I think there's a lot more collaboration that needs to be done between USUSA as well as the Savvy department in order to make sure that their points and their process of trying to get involved with them and filing reports is a lot more easily accessible.
Thank you, Mikey. Neonta?
So I will continue my job as sexual violence prevention educator, as well help point to resources that exist on campus, which is something I do as part of the training. We have a lot of awesome resources at the university, honestly, and this kind of goes back to the last question as well. We don't need to look at resources outside of the university. We need to make sure that whatever resources we have, we are utilizing that to the best that we can so that it's not a waste of resources and also not a waste of our money and student fees that's going into it. And in terms of accountability, I will make sure that there is more, sorry?
The 30 seconds is up again. Sorry.
The accountability.
Okay. Clara?
Well, there are many things that come to mind with this, but in terms of sexual assault resources, we as students need to know what our resources are. We need to know what they look like, what the outcomes will be, and I think education around that, increasing awareness and accessibility to these resources is crucial. As well, putting together a student committee is something that I will do to make sure that students are in with the process. We as students need to be leaders on this process and leaders in terms of how we're going to succeed as a student body.
Thank you, Clara. Next audience question.
So my question is specifically for Clara. Do I get like 90 seconds then?
So they'll each still continue to get 30 seconds to answer.
It's like not about their platforms.
Oh,
though.
yeah, you can just ask.
Okay, sweet. Okay, so you mentioned you wanted to try and keep tuition costs from rising above like 3% or whatever, and you feel that the reason it's rising is because of faculty pay, right? Okay, so my question / concern with that, I'm here to get a good education, and you get what you pay for a lot of times, right? So if we have more funding for schools, then we can get better professors and learn better, right? So how do you plan to keep a high quality education while having their pay not even keep up with inflation? Like, does that make sense? I know it's kind of a weird question, like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. So as I've served with many administrators, I've learned that we as a student body, a lot of people look at Utah State and the ticket price is a lot higher than other places like our competitor schools in Utah. This is something that we can work on together as a student body, and there have been efforts being made, and the quality of education shouldn't change because the funding will still be there. The goal is to have the state legislature help take in the okay.
You can finish your thought.
Well, the goal is to have the state legislature match us, and that will cover the tuition, but it won't decrease the quality of education.
So you're trying to have them funded through the state rather than our tuition. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, sweet. Thank you.
And then Mikey and Nyota, if you'd like to go for it.
So like my colleague mentioned earlier, Mikey, the USUSA, we are currently trying to work on this. As the grad study senator, I recently met with the president for a tuition review meeting with the rest of the executive council, and it's already in the works. And another thing is that this initiative is under the jurisdiction of the student advocate who lobbies with the state, and they will have my full support going forward with this. And we are currently an R1 university, which happened recently, which is awesome. That's the highest tier. And we will make sure that the quality of education doesn't go down, and it won't go down because, one, we are actively working with the USUSA to lower tuition in a way that doesn't affect the quality of education. As well, we have a really awesome, research institute where we're getting a lot of amazing research come out. So that's not going to end.
Thank you, Neonta.
Thank you.
Okay, Mikey, you'll have 30 seconds as
Yeah,
well.
to echo what Neonta said, I think she did a great job of depicting the picture of what's happening. So the current executive board, from what I understand, is currently working on this in order to, trying to get more funding from the state in order to combat that rise in tuition. And just looking at the way the university is going, we're doing a great job of increasing the quality of our education, and by having funding by the university or by the state is going to be huge. So I will be advocating with Neonta for Ethan Conley to help work on that.
Okay, thank you. We'll take the next audience question.
Okay, so I think each of you guys have great platforms and what you want to work on, but there's holes. Where do you think your holes are in each of your campaigns? And what do you think, now that you've been asked that, what do you think you can do to fill those?
All right, so again, you'll have 30 seconds to answer the question. The question order will go as follows. We'll have Clara, then Mikey, then Neonta.
I think that's a great question. As student leaders, none of us are perfect. We have lots of different ways that we can improve. I've had robust leadership throughout my time here at Utah State, and I have lots of different alleyways of experience and professionalism that I think will help me in this position. I personally am looking forward to listening and advocating for students. I think that is something that can be lost a lot of the times, is advocating for all students. And that's something that I'm really passionate about and plan on doing in a successful manner, is advocating for all students, all stories, and all voices.
Thank you for that question. Like you said, holes are inevitable, and I think a lot of the time they come with time. And so I'm not here to say that I have these perfect plans or that I will execute it perfectly when we get into office. We will try our best. And what I think you can find confidence in with me is that this isn't a one-man show. This is something that all of my goals and my plans are collaborative. They're involving other organizations. I want the voices of the people within like the executive council, the student councils, and the voice of the students heard in order to make sure that those gaps are filled.
Thank you.
So if I were to think of one, it would just be the fact that I have so many goals. And to that, I want to say that I had let you all know that I had 24 objectives this past year as graduate studies senator, and I have been able to accomplish 19 of them. So not all of them, but that's also the beauty of having a lot of objectives. If you have 3, you might be able to do only 1 or 2. If you have 20, you'll be able to do more than 1 or 2. And like was already mentioned, I will have a team of really amazing people working with me, and I'll be mindful about how I'm going about appointing them in the Peak Hub and how people would be helping me. And
Thank
also
you.
just being, okay.
I'm so sorry.
You're fine, thank you.
Okay, so we'll take the next audience question.
Hi. What is one thing each of you admire about each other's platforms?
We'll start with Neonta, then we'll move to Clara, and then Mikey.
I'm going to talk about something that's been talked about a lot. So I really love that both of my colleagues have sexual assault prevention awareness on their platforms. Like I said, this is something that's really important to me. That's why I'm currently working on it as the peer educator for sexual violence prevention. And I think the plans that all 3 of us have, and both Mikey and Clara have, they're really amazing. And I really commend them for including this, because we do, as a university, need to speak up more, especially given recent events, and hold administrators and perpetrators more accountable.
Okay, just a brief interjection. The last two people in line for questions are the last two questions that we'll be taking, so please, no more audience questions. Okay.
Did you say it was me or was it Clara first?
It'll be Clara and then Mikey.
Well, I think that we have 3 really great candidates here, and I admire Mikey and Neonta a lot. I love that we all have initiatives and platform points around tuition and sexual assault and overall the well-being of students. I think that we all have taken the time and the effort to collaborate and work with students. One thing that I am really passionate about is my experience within USUSA and understanding how the organization itself works, and I think that we all can work together to make a better institution.
Thank you, Clara. Mikey?
Thanks, Cole, for this question. I think this is very important to highlight. Like both of them have said, I think I have 2 qualified candidates right next to me, and I would be happy with all 3 of us in office. Couple of things that I think they do extremely well. Clara, talking about unification. She's been in a lot of different roles that involve that. She's helped plan events. She's done things that have made this campus feel a lot more inclusive. Neonta, she's done a fantastic job of accomplishing 19 of 24 goals. She's a woman of her word. She does what she says she's going to do, and I admire that tremendously. So one point that I love of that she's doing is housing cost.
Thank you.
There are some trans and non-binary students who feel that they do not receive the proper care, respect, or affirmation from the current university psychiatrist. Neonta, will hiring a new psychiatrist address this issue? Clara and Mikey, how will you address these minority students' concerns?
All right, since the question was directed to Neonta, we'll start with her, and then we'll move to Mikey and then Clara.
So part of the reason I focused on hiring a psychiatrist is because of reports that came out about how queer students and TGN trans and queer students were being treated by the current psychiatrist. And again, we need to make sure that we're doing better, and we need more psychiatrists, but we also need more culturally aware and culturally competent psychiatrists, and that is my priority in making sure that we hire someone who isn't a repeat of the current situation, because that won't address the current situation. And I have really good relationships with administration, and I can work with them to make sure that this happens. That's what I've been doing the past few years. Thank you.
Thank you. Then we'll go to Mikey.
One thing that I hope to do with this is to highlight what the Inclusion Center is already doing. I think they're doing a fantastic job of creating a safe place for a lot of people that don't traditionally feel comfortable in those types of situations. And so what I plan to do is to advocate for and collaborate with and help as much as possible the Inclusion Center in order to help these students feel more included with the psychiatrists that are already on campus, then also the staff that is involved already in the Inclusion Center to help out.
Thank you. And Clara?
We have a strong and capable student body. We, as a collective Utah State family, have a lot of opportunities to support each other. And I think working through the Inclusion Center to create and amplify an ally training will help these students, because the community itself dives deep within. And I really believe that we as a collective community can do better to empower each other and support each other through an ally training.
All right, Mikey, Clara, Neonta, you each are very impressive and you wear a lot of hats. What made you decide to run for student body president, and why do you want to be student body president?
So we'll start with Mikey, we'll go to Neonta, then we'll go to Clara. You'll have 30 seconds each.
Okay. I appreciate the question. This is a new idea for me. I've been very involved with the business school and the humanities school, and things that I've seen within those 2 schools is how incredibly productive and fun it is to get involved with people in other organizations. I love events, and I like being a part of that, but where I see concrete and pure unification is through education and trying to help us bridge the gap between schools, things like that. And so that's what I've fallen in love with, is trying to help colleges find ways to interact with each other, share skill sets, and then really feel unified together.
All right, we'll move on to Neonta. You'll have 30 seconds.
Like I said, community organizing is just really important to me. I've been doing that all my life, and I intend to do that as a career after USU. And there are a lot of reasons behind that. You know, I've felt very welcomed and very loved as part of the USU Aggie family since I moved here, but there are also a lot of things that hurt me, that have also hurt a lot of other people I know who are of different identities. And I want to make sure that everyone is represented and everyone feels like they belong, and that we're not just making blank statements, and that we're doing what we're saying we'll do. And that I also hope, irrespective of the results, that I inspire more people like me to run for these positions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Clara.
I really love this question, and I've thought a lot about this. Utah State is a wonderful place. I have had the opportunity to get involved, and I want to spread that, and I want us all to be able to get involved in different ways at this university. I am someone who truly cares. I care about each and every one of you here. I care about our institution, and I care about the future of this institution. I am someone who is dedicated. I am deeply passionate about Utah State, and I truly believe that I can be an empowering leader who empowers others.
All right, so that's it for our candidates for the USA president. You guys are able to leave the stage now. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So thank you all again for participating in tonight's town hall. Before you leave, please scan the QR code above and fill out the survey to help us improve elections in the future. All respondents will be entered to win prizes.
Tomorrow, the Utah Statesman will hold a debate with these candidates at 12 p.m. in the TSC Hub. The debate can also be streamed at youtube.com/Utah Statesman. And don't forget to cast your vote at elections.usu.edu by tomorrow at 11:59 p.m. Results will be announced on Wednesday at 11 a.m. in the TSC Hub and streamed on YouTube as well.
Thanks again and good night. Everything was crumbling. It was great.
Including myself.
I don't have time to go to get dinner.
Oh.